Well, I have 9 o'clock now on my watch. Is it okay if I get started?
Let's go for it.
Okay. Welcome, SPOT community, everybody who is here. I'm flickering through the gallery view and I'm definitely seeing a lot of familiar names and some new names. So excited to see that, and welcome if you're new. This is the fall 2021 quarterly meeting. So hopefully you brought some coffee. You're here for this virtual presentation. This will be the last one of the year, but we're excited for 2022. So for those of you that are new, what is SPOT? SPOT is Simulation Professionals of Texas. We are currently an organization that offers education, collaboration, and network opportunities for healthcare simulation professionals across the board. So if you work in academia, if you work in the hospital, we welcome everybody. We want to be able to collaborate with you as well. Right now, the SPOT structure consists of the advisory board and the planning oversight committee. On our advisory board, we have Michelle Artigo, Jeremiah Aberrana, who is also one of the founders of the organization, and Karen Meadows, who will also be presenting today. And then on the planning oversight committee, we have myself, Erica Nahosa, Brian Kuntz, and Laura Tilke. So if y'all just want to pop on y'all's camera and say, hey, if they can see you. We're also really excited because we get to welcome 2 more people to the planning oversight committee, which consists of Crystal Campbell and Ruben Torres. So welcome to both of y'all. We're very excited to have them join. Crystal holds a master's in healthcare simulation and is a returning graduate student pursuing a doctorate in health administration. She is also a director of operation at UT Southwestern. Amazing facility. If nobody's been out there, hit her up, check it out. She's also an active committee member for SSH. And then Ruben, he has been a wonderful person in SPOT who's been with the organization for a very long time. He's a simulation coordinator at South Texas College. He also helps and coordinates operation at the nursing, allied, and health campuses, as I mentioned, in the South Texas colleges. He is also an active member in SSH and Axel, SimGhost, and SPOT. So again, welcome to both of y'all. So all year we've been talking about where is SPOT going. So this just helps create a nice visual of what we've been doing for the last couple of years and what we want to do going into the future. So the organization started in 2015. All year long, we've been raising funds so that way we can become a nonprofit, and we are very much so in that direction and should be accomplishing that here soon by the end of the year. And as we begin 2022, we want to then start the process of establishing bylaws as we become a nonprofit, and then continue the process as a nonprofit moving forward. So we're very excited about that. We love your support. If you want to continue the support, there's an opportunity for you to continue to do that on our GoFundMe account. So here you can scan the QR code. There's also a link. Right now, I'm sharing my screen, so I can't share the links, but whenever I hop off and the presenters begin, I can start sharing links in the chat. So that way you can have easy access to that as well. I'll leave this sitting here for about a minute or 2, just so that if you needed to scan anything or copy and paste a link, you have that opportunity to do so. But again, those funds are going to help towards allowing SPOT to become a nonprofit organization, which will continue to have that opportunity for valuable resources and for y'all in the simulation community. And these funds help for the filing fees and the incorporations of this process legally. So that's what we want to do. If you do have any questions, you can always email us at simprosofTexas@gmail.com. It's also here on this slide, but I can also post it in the chat in just a few minutes. So again, we definitely appreciate your support. It's been wonderful to see that over the last couple of months and allowing us to move and migrate into that direction. All right, so there's always that opportunity. You want to keep up with Spot. We want you to share this with everybody. We want to continue to grow. A lot of times it's word of mouth, who you know. So send to your friends, send to your colleagues, have them send to their colleagues. We are over right now 200 people in our contact list, which is amazing. And we definitely want to continue to see that number go up. So have them send us an email. You can also visit our website. You can see us on Facebook and LinkedIn. Again, you don't have to memorize anything on this slide. I can post all of that in the chat so that way you'll have quicker access to it. All right, and now we're here for the best part and why we're here for this hour. So I am very excited to push this over to the presenters on high fidelity experience, simulation beyond the lab. We will have 4 speakers and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, but just quickly, we will have Clint Menefee, David Lang, Karen Meadows, and Jenny Roye.
So much, Erica. I'm going to pull up the presentation here. So you all let me know whenever you can see the screen here.
We can see it.
Okay, great. Thank you all so much. We'll jump right in. So good morning, everyone. Really appreciate you allowing us to be here. We'll do a little bit of team introductions here in just a second, but we do have an agenda this morning. We want to do a little bit of a welcome and some introductions. And we really want to highlight our experience with 2 really awesome clients that are obviously a part of Spot, but also presenting with us this morning at the University of Texas at Arlington with Jenny Roye and UNT Health Science Center with Karen Meadows. So, and then we want to finish the conversation this morning with a little bit of lessons learned, and that will lead right into hopefully a really robust question and answer session. So if you have any questions, we'd ask that you try to wait till the end. We do think that lessons learned will be really helpful for you all. And really, we're going to focus those lessons learned on things that you might want to know or need to know if you ever move into a design or a construction project for simulation spaces. So we think this is going to be really great. So really appreciate the opportunity for allowing us to be here. So again, my name is Clint Menefee. I'm the higher education studio leader. I'm an architect and the higher education studio leader for SmithGroup here in the Texas region. So I'll turn it over to maybe David Lang, and then we'll go to our client presenters as well. David, you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Hi, I'm David Lang. Can everyone hear me? Clint, is it good? My audio is kind of bad this morning. Sorry about that. Hey,
perfect.
Good morning, everyone. I work with Clint Menefee in our Dallas office and, our other higher ed offices, primarily on health science and simulation centers around the country.
Jenny, how about you, please?
I'm Jenny Roye, and it's good to see some of your faces. I recognize some of you. I'm the Assistant Dean for Simulation and Technology over at UTA College of Nursing and Health Innovation. It's a mouthful. But been in my position about 3 years and get the wonderful opportunity to plan and open a beautiful space.
Thanks, Jenny. Karen?
Yeah, I'm Karen Meadows, and I'm the director of the Simulation Center at the University of North Texas Health Science Center in Fort Worth.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And we'll just kind of jump right in. I want to do just a real quick introduction of who we are and what we do. So we are, again, a design and architecture and engineering firm with offices in Dallas, amongst many other major cities across the country. We're about 1,250, depending on the day, multidisciplinary design professionals, and we're the 3rd largest higher education architecture firm in the country. But health sciences is something that we're very passionate about. It's a very big part of what we do, not only in Texas throughout this region, but across the country with over 50 projects in the last 10 years alone. So it's something we're very passionate about. And again, is a big part of what we do and really the things that we really like to do, honestly. We'll jump right in. We talked a little bit about our recent experience in this region with a wide variety of health sciences projects, almost all having some sort of semblance of simulation space, including we talked about the 2 projects we're talking about today at the University of Texas Arlington and the UNT Health Science Center, but also really interesting projects at Texas Tech Health Science Center, University of Texas at Tyler, We have a biomedical engineering project at UT Southwestern Medical Center, and just opened a really awesome facility at Texas A&M Commerce, a nursing and health sciences building. So again, this is what we really like to do, and we've done a lot over the last several years. But we are here to talk about, focus on two great stories with a lot of great people with our School of Social Work and Smart Hospital building at the University of Texas at Arlington, and the new Regional Simulation Center at the University of North Texas Health Science Center. These are two projects that are currently both in construction now. So we would love to host some sort of tours or activities once the buildings are open. I know that's going to be a big deal to our two clients. It would be a big deal to us. So still a good ways to go during the construction phase of these, but we are wrapped up in design. A little bit about how we work. So we're going to talk a little bit about this in the lessons learned, but it is a highly collaborative process, and we absolutely we see ourselves as tools of the university and of our clients to help solve some of the challenges that they have. So again, lots of collaboration tools, lots of collaboration exercises. We absolutely want and need our clients to be a key part of the design process, because absolutely we need to design and plan facilities that align with your pedagogical goals and the way in which you want to teach health science education and the way you want to teach simulation. So we have a process that's flexible enough, but also deeply based in collaboration with with the users. David, you want to jump right in?
Absolutely. So today we want to talk a little bit more about simulation beyond the lab and high fidelity, not just high fidelity spaces, but high fidelity experiences. So how can we create mannequin-based experiences, but also those important face-to-face interactions? And Clint, if you go to the next slide, we have this framework that we've been developing over time, and it's about how we can extend the thinking beyond the simulation lab to extend those important face-to-face experiences and even simulation outside the lab. So creating protocols that go outside, create large format simulations. They're not always confined to that 200 square foot lab, as you know. We're speaking to a very refined audience here, but sometimes we aren't, or sometimes our clients are using different languages. So what we try to do is use this grid system to create a common language or framework. And what you're seeing at the bottom, I'll be brief, is what we're hearing everywhere. We want flexibility, we want to optimize space. We care deeply about student success and inclusion. But then as we go up through the grid, we see in yellow some of those foundational skills, team-based learning labs, foundational skills. And then I wouldn't say they branch off, but they're two different streams, the standardized patient OSCE exam room paradigm, and also the immersive, more traditional simulation labs that are also expanding into virtual reality and other things. And then at the top, and I'll be done, are things that we're starting to see as best practices universally, and a really deep commitment to interprofessional education, and really in the last 3 years, especially during the pandemic, well-being. And I think Karen and Jenny will have a few things to say about both of those.
All right. Jenny, we'll jump into a little bit about the sort of current state and a little bit of a discussion on the needs as you develop the project at University of Texas at Arlington.
Okay, well, the first good step of planning is a good needs assessment. So you have to look at where you are right now. At UTA, we currently are in 2 locations. Cooper Street divides our 2 locations. So logistics are kind of tricky. Moving equipment back and forth becomes a big issue. Our simulation design right now, if you look at it, when it was created back in 2007, it was a great idea. We had these big wards, and we could fit many people in those big wards. But now we're seeing the need for more individualized patient rooms, smaller groups of learners. So that is a inefficient use of space right now. We have these big wards, but can only put 4 or 5 students in there, sound issues, etc. Our buildings were temporary in 2007. So that's a long temporary time. So our building condition is not optimal. Don't get me wrong. We do great things with what we have, okay? But yeah, it's time for an upgrade. And then, of course, everybody's problem, inadequate storage. We have a very high volume. We have a very high volume of students, and therefore we need a lot of equipment. Storage is a problem.
We've never heard that one before, Jenny.
No, I'm sure that that's a novel request. So what do we need? We need more usable spaces due to our increased use of simulation in the undergraduate program. Again, we have a very large nursing program and we continue to grow it. We admit about 220 each spring and fall on campus, and then a smaller group, about 50 in the summer. So we have a lot of traffic. In the graduate program is beginning to use more simulation, and they will going forward in the future because of the new AACN essentials and the requirement for them to be competent before they go out into their clinical experience. So again, I mentioned individual patient rooms versus those ward style rooms. We want to start using a lot more standardized patients, and therefore we are going to need different spaces for those experiences. And then got to get in one location. Moving equipment, moving mannequins back and forth across Cooper Street is not only traumatic for us, but for the others that are on campus that encounter our little transfer. And they mentioned the School of Social Work. We want to increase our IPE experiences, and this building is going to be a great way to do that because social work will be right with us. Now at UTA, we don't have all of the specialties that they do other centers. We do have large nursing and social work. We have athletic training, public health. So those are all engineering. So those are all IP experiences that we want to work on here on campus. Again, our spaces are not optimal for that. So that was our need, some of our needs. Here is our current state. On the left, you'll see the outside of the Smart Hospital building. Again, 2007, portable type buildings. I call it the double wide of the campus, but again, we do amazing things in our little double wide. And then on the right are our debriefing rooms. We're able to divide those into 4 spaces. The whole debriefing room setup holds about 72 students. So that's some of our spaces. There's the outside of our lovely building. There's our storage dilemma on the left. We co-sleep a lot of our mannequins. I know you should never do that, and I'm a pediatric nurse, so I know that, but unfortunately, this is how it is sometimes. And then our other location is in the Smart Lab, is in University Hall. Again, an older building on campus. I say we're in the penthouse because we are on the 5th floor. So we have the penthouse of this building. And this is one of our patient rooms, which actually works pretty well for a patient room. It was an old office. We have 15 of those that were changed into patient rooms. Again, very crowded. I'm glad that they provided for privacy there. But that is our current situation at the Smart Lab.
Do have a quick video of the project. We'll give a great overview, and then we'll talk about a little bit about some of the design concepts that are associated with it. So this was put together by the UT Arlington Development Group. They worked with us to develop this animation that will help them raise money, supplement some of the costs of equipment and cost of the building as well. Can everyone see and hear it okay? All right. Did that play out okay for everyone?
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. David, you want to jump right in and talk about some of the concepts?
You
involved
bet.
in the
And
plan?
as I was watching that again, Jenny, we haven't talked about culture shock and change management that you're going to have moving from the double wides into building like that. It's stunning. Thinking also about your opportunities, we saw some of those social spaces, those interaction spaces, the outdoor spaces that you're going to be able to leverage over time for simulation protocols outside the lab. But let's talk about inside the lab and inside the floor for a few minutes. This is floor 3 of 4 floors in the building. Jenny, you all have other spaces in the building, but this is the core floor that you'll be working on. And the way we thought about it with you is to create a both and situation that we're defining each of those spaces. Clint, if you want to move forward.
Sure.
Those 3 areas, that's cool. The fundamental skills, procedural skills, the smart hospital and the smart lab addressing OSCE exam room ramping up, and also the immersive simulation environments. Those are bubbled up into different colors here. And what we're missing here is the heart. Right at the center is those interaction spaces that glue everything together and bring everyone together. A couple things about this floor. We are really working up the ladder, those spaces in yellow. Thinking about team-based learning and what Jenny just said, how can we scale appropriately? You're scaling up, Jenny. You're bringing more and more nursing students into the program, but at the same time, you're desiring flexible and more intimate environments for those smaller group interactions. So on floor 3, we have a series of medium-sized small classrooms that are highly flexible. Can move into different formats for different kind of protocols, but also create team-based learning environments, both formal and informal. We're going to talk about a minute about the HiFlex lab on the right, opportunity for that. But the dashed red line is super important. It's addressing one of the things you talked about, Jenny, and that's operational flow. How do you move between classrooms and labs to support spaces and between each other? We'll see that again in a minute. The next image is a prototype that we modeled for Jenny and the school, and it might be used in it to create more flexible environments for remote learning. So we think about it as equitable access and a really inclusion for student learners to come into the environment, create experiential teaching environments that are accessible remotely. Never as good as face-to-face, but we're trying to get as close to that kind of simulation as possible. So this is a type of simulation outside the lab in effect. But now we get back into more traditional environments, and Jenny, pitch in anytime. But this is one of 4 labs that we have in yellow for the fundamental procedural skills. We have 3 skill-based labs, 2, 3, and 4 in the diagram, and then 1 health assessment lab with exam tables. But you can see that red dashed line flowing freely between the 3 outside the hallway. It's a backdoor entry for staff operations, connecting the purple areas, staff officing and support, storage, prep. Super important. Can't wait for you to get in there and be able to leverage both the hallway and the backdoor access, but create a contemporary learning environment for students, faculty, and staff to work in. Daylit environment. That's novel, right, Jenny? You don't have all that right now.
Right. This is one of my favorite spaces, David, because, even though I said the ward situation isn't optimal, sometimes you need those larger spaces. So I'll have the best of both worlds. This is one that we can use for, I think that there's 12 bed spaces. So, up to 24, even 36 learners at a time. So this is one of my favorite spaces.
Yeah, us too. And then one other space. So here's one of 6 traditional simulation labs. I'll say traditional in that they're specialized patient room labs, but you can see 1 and 6 are 2 different scales. And we're looking at number 6 on a window wall here, but it's larger than the others. It's about 450 square feet. The 2, 3, 4, I believe we're about 250 square feet or so. So we're giving, Jenny's given the opportunity to create more interprofessional environments in these larger sim labs, bring larger care teams, simulate larger care teams if you want. But also we opted for direct connection between the control room and these simulation labs. So every sim lab has a visual observation, kind of old school, but it's returning, and also direct immediate access. So a door system that allows you, the faculty or the proctor, to come right into the simulation lab. But there's kind of a meta message that went on, and it's that undercurrent that Karen's going to speak to a little bit too, and that's all about well-being. So we held a town hall event. Next slide, Jenny. I'll just kick this off, but maybe you could talk a little bit about well-being and the efforts that you're undertaking. It's kind of like a lot of the social issues that we're confronting these days. Can space really help with well-being? We try, it's not the full answer, but can we create visual messages about fitness, about respite, about good health and eating? But it goes beyond that. And Jenny, I'll transition over to you if you want to pitch in a few things. I just want to thank you and Scott in the School of Social Work for putting us on a wheelchair tour and having us really understand, even though you think you would know it, but there's nothing like experiencing the obstacles and challenges of mobility throughout a university setting.
And this is one great thing about working with the social work department. In nursing, we do have that caring, holistic approach. However, social work has it sees client care through a different lens, and that is a great synergy to work with them. They even got down to the details of the carpet, where that may affect mobility of wheelchairs, etc. So they are very in tune with the need for a green building. So I love all of their input. Again, collaboration between the two departments I feel is good, and then everybody in the planning process really takes everyone's expertise into account. So great synergy.
Yeah, and Jenny, just talk about to summarize, I think this has been a really amazing collaboration between the School of Social Work and the College of Nursing and Health Innovations. Really coming together with a really interesting, amazing building that does all the things that you said it has. And we're going to talk a little bit about the lessons learned, but really just kind of embracing change, embracing collaboration, and understanding how it can make your department and your students better through collaboration. When maybe there wasn't those types of relationships ahead of time, but I think through the process you've crafted some of those relationships, and it'll go a long way to obviously operating a really amazing facility for the students at both colleges. So really excited about that. Okay, we'll jump right in, and I think in summary of the UTA project, and we'll go back to this with some lessons learned here in a few minutes, but just really proud and excited of our part in this, and it's been an amazing collaboration with Jenny and her team, as well as Dean Ryan and the School of Social Work. So it's been a lot of fun, and we have a long way to go to make sure the building gets built the right way, but it's going. And if you all want to check it out, the structure is up, the concrete structure is up over in Arlington, and we'll be starting on walls and skin very, very soon. So right now it's a very messy job site, but it's a lot of fun.
But it's beautiful. I stare at it every morning.
Even the construction site is beautiful.
It is. I stare at it every morning. I stop in the middle of the road and look at it. It's like, okay.
Thanks so much, Jenny. All right, we're going to jump right into our collaboration with Karen at the UNT Health Science Center. Karen, you want to go ahead and talk about both the need and the current state of your facility?
Sure, absolutely. Ours is a little bit of a different type of project, maybe a little bit smaller in scale, but we still have 2,300 students across 6 different academic programs that we are trying to serve in our simulation center. So historically, simulation was located under one of these academic programs, making it a little bit more difficult for some of the other programs to get equitable access to space in the lab and that kind of thing. And so our leadership had a vision to create a new simulation center that would serve as a collaborative hub. And it is, and then also to help promote IPE as well. They also wanted to have us create a space that would support our strategic initiative right now to integrate the concept of whole health into our clinics, into student curricula, and within the community. And so a central location was selected on campus. We are currently renovating one of the floors of the library. Currently, our current simulation space is 6,000 square feet, and we're moving up to about 15,000 square feet. So it's not a huge center, but we want to, just like David mentioned at the beginning, maximize every little bit of it that we can to make the most of that space. And so this is our current state. We have 10 clinic exam rooms, and we'll be moving up the capacity of that. But you know, our current center, the way it's designed, it does create some bottlenecks. We do have some potential accessibility issues here that will be addressed with the new universal design of our new center. And then go on to the next slide, if you would, Clint.
Sure.
Our current simulation center has a base style type simulation lab. And this serves sort of a dual purpose. This is also where we do procedural skills. So those things are hard to happen at the same time within our current space. So definitely go on to the next slide, if you would. We are definitely over capacity, as you can see. So for clinical skills, you know, and procedural skills there on the left, sometimes it's hard to get everyone a chance to participate in that. You know, they have very little time. And so we're even looking to expand hours and that kind of thing for students to have access to practice. The back 1/3 of our simulation lab has become storage space out of necessity, and it's also our biomaker lab. So again, these are spaces that we're looking forward to having a little bit of more access to in our new lab. On the left, you're seeing our control room. I know it looks like a storage room, and actually that has been cleared out a little bit because we needed to have a place for some new staff to join our team. So I don't know if that was Billy chiming in to say that's her office now, but that's where she works. So for temporarily until our new offices are built. And I just find whoever's out of the office today and take squatters' rights in their office anywhere on campus, I can find a place. So we are definitely ready to expand.
Yeah, and I'll touch base quickly on this, Karen. You know, one of the things we started design on both of these projects literally like right at the beginning of COVID. So for a very long time, you know, we were working very closely, very collaboratively, meeting very, very often with a number of people that we have never met in person. So we immediately had to pivot and develop some engagement tools that allowed us to understand what the priorities were and what the needs were of both faculty, staff, and students. So this is an example of one of the collaborative meetings we held and engagements we held to understand sort of what were the necessities of the student experience and the staff experience as you sort of flowed from the welcome spot, you know, the lobby, or where do you first sense that this is the new regional simulation center for UNTL Science Center, and then how do you want to experience the space, both from an operational perspective, but also in regards to that those concepts of whole health. So it sort of looks kind of crazy and a mess, but if you're a part of this engagement, you understand exactly what's going on, and some really cool concepts came out of this engagement that have made it into the design, or of course going to make it into the facility itself. So we're very proud of the ability for all of us to really sort of pivot very quickly and understand how can we do the things that we would normally do in a very different way. And David, you just want to talk just very briefly about the organization, and we have a quick video on this project as well.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, and then Karen, when we walk through the space, if you want to pitch in and walk through some of the space, but here's the overview. There's other spaces involved kind of around the perimeter, but in the thick black line are the core spaces that we were talking about. And entry commons was a huge deal. And, you know, that was a negotiation right up to the end. How do we actually enter this space on this floor in an accessible and a way that could be used also for those respite areas, social engagement, and even outdoor or simulation outside the lab. But we have a single procedural skills lab that has to do a lot of legwork, covering a lot of bases for a lot of different uses. And it's right at the front door. So when you walk in, it could be that community engagement room or that flex room that we use for other types of skills. The immersive simulation in blue was a kind of Japanese lunchbox, a tightly knit package of 6 different simulation experiences with a central control feature and some observation debrief, but also one of the pooling areas for the standardized patient areas that Karen was talking about expanding. And then in green are those standardized patient exam rooms that, again, are finally, they look pretty simple, but they're pretty finely tooled. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
See if I can get this guy to play. There we go. All right, that played. That was awesome.
Here we go again.
Yeah, bear with me. I'm trying to exit out of this YouTube link. There we go. Let me get the presentation pulled back up here.
Karen, do you want to walk through some of these spaces and I can pitch in?
Sure. So this is the main corridor. It's a nice big open wide space, and it has a feature right down there where those people are standing. This is a short throw projector that we will be able to maybe stream content that's happening in another room. We can show videos here. We could use it for, if we had a big conference, for wayfinding or for agenda type things. We feel like this will be used a whole lot to be able to showcase our center. Anything else you want to say about that, David?
No.
David, why don't you talk about how this procedural skills lab sort of flexes in lots of different ways?
Yeah, and if you notice in the image we were just seeing, we're at the front door to the sim center, and right to the right where there was a sheet of glass there, and that's the door system into this lab. So it's right at the beginning. Like I said, it can be used for community engagement, but also more normal class, space forward classes. But this is our Swiss Army knife room, I'd say, amongst others, really looking at flexibility. And a partition system can slide. I think the next slide is partition system closing in this lab. I'm showing it subdivided into 2 spaces, and you can see the tables and chairs rotated and take advantage of monitors on the walls. And if you squint and look under those monitors, you see a gray bar going left to right. And all that is a power and piping rail that allows for the next image to happen if we like. And that's if we can have the storage, we can roll patient beds in and create a skills lab, a procedural skills lab, and take advantage of that vertical cabinetry for some of the hands-on task trainers or other kinds of implements that we might have. And then a final image here of this same room. If you need an extra OSCE, be ad hoc, we could roll in exam tables. So that's that room. That's a bit of a transformer room.
We had a need for scalability in our procedural skills areas. And so that was one of the things that we determined is that, we even have some stations on either end of this room so that if we wanted to demonstrate suture skills, instead of having just 2 or 3 students standing around the instructor podium and just seeing one, a small group at a time, now we can have 40 people learning that same skill at once. And this will have adjustable height tables. One of the things that we frequently see in our current sim lab is students sitting down to do skills that they would never do sitting down. So we're looking forward to having the space and the ability to train in that fashion.
I think the other thing I was super impressed by both of you was the forward thinking that you both brought into the project. And so your group, Karen, particularly, were thinking about what kind of emerging modalities are there in care deliveries? And are we thinking about our exam rooms, not just as that consult examination feature, but are we thinking in the image to the left of even more patient focus? So sharing in screen instead of hunched over a laptop on a desk, the idea of wearables, the idea of VR. You really brought those ideas, and how could we incorporate those into the good old exam room environment?
Yes, and we're looking at AI documentation and that kind of thing for this space. So making sure that we cover the students for what we need to, that what they're going to see when they move out into the clinical practice right now, but also thinking about what might be coming in the future.
And on a kind of wonky level too, this room is the same room, so in two different modalities, but also a third modality. Sometimes these rooms are underutilized. You know, it's kind of like binge purge. They're used a lot for a few weeks and then they sit unused. So can they be even used for a small group or individual student study or some heads down space? So you see a large continuous horizontal surface, a rolling bench where we could maybe pull up a small desk or table too, and leverage these rooms for alternate use beyond examination.
So we've moved from 10 to 14 of these rooms, and then they're also a little bit of a larger footprint at about 1.5 times the size of our former rooms. That way we can have those larger groups.
Yep, and I'll set this one up and maybe you could walk through the spaces, but for the immersive simulation environments, the traditional labs, if you will, we created a modular idea. And that's what I mean specifically is a same footprint for the 6 simulation labs. We created 2 flexible simulation labs, 2 very specialized simulation labs, and then here's a double wide for you, Jenny, 2 modules that were combined together for the activities of daily living, but it's really 2 of those modules. And then the observation debriefs are 300 square feet as well. They could be pulled into duty as an ad hoc sim lab, a flexible space. And even the control room started out as a 300 square foot module. So trying to create that flexibility at the beginning to create very distinct environments for simulation.
This is one of our specialized simulation rooms. And so, you know, you're seeing the access to the control room, and we do have a direct observation window. And then on the left-hand side, there's another direct observation window. This goes into one of our rooms that we're calling Teams rooms. So it's a debrief room, but it's, again, the, you know, bento box model so that we can pull out all of the furniture in there. And it still has cameras and mics and that kind of thing in that room. That Teams room now can be converted into an additional simulation room should we need to do that. So
and I just want to
capacity for simulation.
I just want to say in both these cases, I'm seeing the pendulum come back a little bit more from, we can control from anywhere in the universe with technology these days, but both Jenny and Karen advocated for direct access from a control room. And that's kind of an old school model that's coming back, but it gives you a lot more control, no pun intended, about how you want to access that room. And maybe at smaller scale events, just even preparation from the staff perspective, give you direct access. You don't have to walk around the hallway or walk down across the street with your mannequins, Jenny. And Karen, you want to talk about some of the flexible labs?
Sure. So we have 2 white box simulation rooms, and these will have immersive projection technology in here. Both of them will be able to provide 2D simulation settings. So we can take a 360 camera, go out and record, you know, if a hospital will let us take a clinical site picture, we can bring it into the sim lab and students can get an orientation to that environment before they go to that facility. Or it could be used in a variety of different ways. We could trade an EMT, do an outdoor setting, a house fire, you know, all kinds of things are capable of using that. And then one of those 2 rooms will also be able to do 3D as well, so that it's interactive. These walls all have hotspots. You can touch it and trigger whatever you need. It's a algorithm to help run the case. If it is labs that you need to get during the simulation. So lots of ability to use those simulation spaces. And this is what we wanted to do. You know, I think a lot of times when you're building a simulation center, if you have a lot of square footage, you can dedicate a space to an OR or an ER, but in our case, we didn't have that much square footage. So we wanted to be able to maximize the use of it. And this allows us to make whatever we need to make.
And I'd just like to pitch in here and say, well, I saw a comment that this space could be used for home health. That's exactly what two of the sim modules are on the other side of this assembly are a white box theater dedicated for home health with a hardwired kitchen and bathroom with a plumbed kitchen and bathroom. But I want to say, working with smart folks like this, I am really becoming impressed with the idea that amidst the intensity and sometimes chaos of the protocols that students and faculty and staff are running, there's a really powerful need for these areas of reflection and respite. And I'm starting to understand more and more how important that solitude, the ability to immerse yourself quietly in what you just went through is so important. Like, everyone knows these spaces are important, but I'm starting to understand they're almost as critical to that immersive and retention process as ever. So Karen, do you want to talk a little bit about whole health and how these might contribute, or anything to wrap up?
Yeah, so that's a big initiative for our school. And so we wanted to be able to make sure that that was sort of the thread that ran throughout the simulation project. And so again, this is just one small piece of it, but just the students asked for this. They wanted that equitable access to the natural light for that purpose, sort of, you know, rejuvenation, if you will. And so that's just one aspect of whole health that we're using throughout this, but definitely one that's important.
Well, thanks so much, everyone. I wanted to jump in. We just have just a quick time check. It's 9:48, so we got about 12 minutes to the end of the meeting. We want to make sure we leave a couple of minutes at the end, so we can jump right into the lessons learned. And I'm going to stop sharing just so we can see everyone's faces, and we will have a quick round table of some things you might want to keep in mind as maybe you all are engaging in design projects or construction projects. So I think the first theme that we heard sort of over and over, and I'll let sort of Karen and Jenny just jump right in here, is the topic of communication. And that sort of means a lot of different things. Maybe Karen, I see your face on the screen first for me. So you want to just jump right in and maybe share a couple of things that you learned along the way that may be helpful to the audience?
Sure. I think it's really important that you get the right people to the table, because sometimes, you know, we in our project, we had a lot of senior leaders that were involved. They may not necessarily be the ones that know the program as well. So making sure you have the right people at the table is so important when it comes to communication and understanding what the project needs are. And then understanding, like, it was a big project, a big time commitment, and understanding, you know, what was required of the people is something that's important, something I didn't understand myself. So, you know, that's something that we learned along the way, is that we need to make sure that people know what they're signing up to do and how much commitment, and that giving them permission that when they need to back out, that they can have someone else move in their place.
And another aspect of communication is that you need to know, and you may not know, but you need to learn each other's language. There were words that I had to Google, I'm not going to lie, but don't be afraid to ask questions. And that goes both ways. You know, there was a discussion about head walls, and we speak different head wall language than an architect may speak. So we had to learn each other's vocabulary and language. So that was a big deal. And it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't hard to do at all, because they are more than willing to answer your questions, and we are more than willing to answer theirs. But that is important. And I totally agree with Karen, getting input from everyone, all the way down to your techs. that communication is key. You know, what do they need? So I think that may be another lesson learned. I think I may have jumped categories. I'll hold that comment.
Oh, it's all good. The whole point is that we deliver the lessons learned, Jenny. So but I do think you make a great point. Like, you know, these we're talking big concepts and flexibility and all those things, but I guess the success of the project is really measured in all of those things, like in the amount of flexibility, all the way down to the types of you know, the pieces of equipment and everything else that your techs and your students are actually engaging with. So it's just so many levels of detail that are required in a project like this, which makes it so much fun for us, but also so imperative that you and your whole staff is involved in the project. So I think that's a great story. Maybe we switch themes a little bit and talk about sort of and Karen, you started to talk a little bit about this, about just sort of the length and the commitment and everything else that's involved in something like this. You know, I do think COVID definitely had a impact on that, because we just had to meet more often to get the things done that we needed to get done. You know, it's just a different way about going about it. But maybe if you could both kind of quickly just talk about finding the right team and the commitment involved in something like this.
Yeah, well, for me, I mean, it was just like I'd mentioned, we had some folks that maybe weren't the best one necessarily that were always contributing. So as the project went on, I discovered that, you know, really that's my job, is to find those right people, because you know, I would ask the deans of each program to send, they maybe didn't know either or didn't send the right people. And so I took that upon as my mission. Go find the people that need to show up at this meeting. It's really important. And so instead of just sending out these, you know, just blanket sort of invitations, I sent them a personal note that said, your input on this, and here's why. And that's be the, you know, one of the best ways to get the engagement that we were seeking.
Yeah, totally agree. You need that input from, you know, ask Erica, ask her how many questions I've asked her. So, you know, our entire team is involved in this whole process, but being the point person and you know, our dean, I have to keep her informed of what we're doing, because exactly what you said, Karen, you know, they may not know the immediate needs, the boots on the ground needs. And so that works it from different levels, you know, that works from the top down and from the bottom up. So not that it's the bottom from, yeah, you know what I mean.
All levels, all scales.
All
Yep,
levels,
exactly.
yeah.
Yep. Understood. Well, we just have a few minutes left. Maybe if we maybe allow any questions from the audience or anyone else. And Erica, please, you know, shut us down whenever you need to.
I can talk about simulation just like everybody here all day long and just stay on this chat, because it has been so exciting to see both sim centers. And just to kind of piggyback off of what Jenny was saying, because I do work at UTA alongside with her, and I've been in this building for a very long time. I feel like sometimes I came with the building because I've been here for so long. And what is temporary should have not been temporary as long as this. So we're very excited about the new building. And I love that Jenny involved every single one of us. And I really felt empowered through the process. And I know that everybody did as well, knowing how we can build purposeful storage, because that's a big issue. So including our inventory specialist who deals with our storage every single day and has all of those numbers memorized, and just knowing how to do things that we see now very differently, and to make a better, safe environment for everybody and for our students as well. So it's been really awesome. I'm looking at the chat. I don't see any questions. I know Crystal asked, when do we get to come tour? Anytime. If you come tour now, it's just cement and pipes right now, but
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's beautiful every day. It's beautiful.
Jenny, Karen, y'all can stop me if I overspeak on this, but I think we would love to have people in our space. And even for you, Crystal, who works at UT Southwestern, when your building had first opened, everybody was so excited to go and to tour and to see that as well. Yeah, and if anybody,
our center opens in June. I was just going to mention that since you were talking about the time frame. And so, yeah, we're hoping maybe, you know, sometime towards the end of next year, we may be able to host a spot event there.
Our timeline is a little longer. Spring of 2023, I think, is when we plan to go live. It'll be an interesting Christmas break that year, moving all of our lovely equipment.
And anybody who's on here now, please, if you have a question, you can jump in, you can put it in the chat. One thing that I kind of wrote down was the square footage. So I know, Jenny, for you, because again, I do work here, so I'm familiar with the square footage, but right now we're working with about 26,000 square feet. I think we're moving somewhere to a little bit over 30,000 square feet. Do you think that square footage actually matters, or is it the design and having a more purpose-built space that matters more?
I think flexibility of that space. We need more, and we need more flexible. So that's one thing. If anybody's planning on renovating or a new build, and Karen alluded to this too, spaces need to be interchangeable, flexible. Sometimes they end up as storage. I hope that that's none of our usable space going forward, but you know, you maximize your space. You need to be able to efficiently flex something into whatever you need it to be. So I think that's key, not necessarily numbers or amounts, but just usability, flexibility.
And we're hiring too, by the way. So let me just put that plug in there. I need some help. We went from a 3-person team and soon to be 7 or 8-person team. So yeah.
So Crystal asked a really great question. So, and this may go to both of y'all, but did you include an analysis of AV integration and decide on an LMS software ahead of time?
We have some places on campus. We're using Simulation IQ, the EMS system, and we already have some places on campus where that is installed. And so we wanted to be able to integrate what we currently have. And so that was a pretty easy selection for us, since it's something that we were successful with already.
We're in that process now. Yeah, I have an AV bid due this afternoon. So yeah, in process.
And then also with the immersive simulation rooms, we selected WorldViz for that vendor. So I know there's 1 or 2 out there. There's starting to be more. Even since we made that decision, I've seen a few more come up. So.
And just to kind of piggyback, so our current AV situation, and this should be taken into consideration anytime you're building a sim center. We have a lot of firewalls. We have a lot of wiring issues because everything is going into the ceiling into one room that is maybe, I don't know how many meters away. And so that causes a lot of conflict in our sim center. So I think with our current design, where we have a sim space and then a room, a sim space and a room, it's going to be a little bit more practical because we know these issues occur or have happened at UTA. And so going into the new building, we're very excited to be able to at least have more effective, efficient, high quality equipment that we can use. Let's see. Okay, so Megan True had asked, was the majority of input for decisions coming from staff, Simtex, or other?
Yes. Everyone's input is invaluable, in my opinion.
Including the students.
Yes, yes, including the students. And I think going back to communication, and I may have said this already, just don't be afraid to ask questions. There is no dumb question. You know, we tell our students that, but there are things that I don't understand. I mean, I am not an architect. I had to look up what LEED meant. But I know now. So it's an educational process for us as well. I learn something every day.
And to Laura's comment in the chat, she's asking about were plans made for efficiencies in the spaces to optimize staffing. And I do have a small little hoteling spot so that when faculty come over, there is a closed door where they can, you know, pull up a student's record or have a phone conversation without having to go all the way across campus back to their office. So we did think about that kind of thing, and it could be used for, we're going to probably start a simulation TA program as well. So, you know, when faculty for that relation TAs may be using it.
Same here. We have a faculty space.
Yeah, that's a current problem in our facility. They don't have anywhere to go. I know that it is 10 now, so, and I can see that people are starting to hop off. If anybody has any last minute burning questions, now's the time, or forever hold your peace, I suppose. I definitely want to say thank you to all the presenters, Jenny, Karen, David, Clint, for joining us today, taking the time, especially to hang out with us, so to speak. And so we're very thankful to that. And I enjoyed the presentation. I think everybody else here did as well. And so we appreciate that.
Thank you for letting us present
Yeah,
our
do a
spaces.
virtual round of
Thank you for
applause.
having us.
And thank you, SmithGroup, for being so awesome.
Thanks so much, y'all. Really appreciate the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you all this morning. So been a lot of fun with Karen, Jenny, and their team. So lots more to go. We're not done
Yep.
yet.
We're not done yet.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.